Hi, welcome to the Innovators Tech Talk. We are going to be talking about Google Cloud VMware Engine. My name is Sai Gopalan. I'm a product manager with Google Cloud. And with me, I have Krishna Chengavalli, who's a product manager with Google Cloud as well.
Hello, everyone.
So before we get started, one of the key things that we want to understand is what are we exactly trying to solve for with Google Cloud VMware Engine? And the context over here is that most enterprises are running VMware on premises, and these enterprises are increasingly looking to migrate to the cloud and transform their business and transform their IT. The key, pain point that we are trying to solve for, and our mission is how do we provide one of the simplest VMware private cloud experiences in Google Cloud, which allows our customers to migrate and optimize their VMware workloads over to Google Cloud in a native VMware environment. There are three things over here that we are trying to do as part of our mission, right? One is provide a cloud optimized VMware platform, which essentially allows us to bring the enterprise capabilities of VMware as well as Google Cloud together with the elasticity and scale that the cloud brings, with Google Cloud brings. The second thing is around deep Google Cloud integration. And this is essentially what we call cloud integrated. And the idea over here is to make the consumption of VMware in the cloud extremely integrated and consistent as possible with the rest of GCP infrastructure, with native integration to Google Cloud services and a uniform consumption experience. And finally, the third part over here as part of our mission is how do you bring your entire ecosystem of tooling over to Google Cloud with Google Cloud VMware Engine. And here, enterprises have invested significant time over the last decade, 2 decades over, as well as money and resources to build their technology tooling. The one of the key things that we're trying to do with Google Cloud VMware Engine is how do you make sure that those tools and those technologies that customers and enterprises have invested in are able to be translated seamlessly to the cloud. Now, when you think about Google Cloud VMware Engine, it is essentially a native VMware stack that is running inside of Google Cloud. You can bring your VMware-based environments and your workloads over to Google Cloud without major modifications or re-architecture, right? And essentially, Google Cloud VMware Engine is a Google managed service, which essentially means that the management, the networking services, the operating platform, and all of the backend infrastructure is all managed by Google Cloud. And this is sold and supported by Google Cloud. One of the key things to understand is why do customers use Google Cloud VMware Engine, right? And here, one of the things is there is consistent operations between on-premises and the cloud. There's an entire learning curve that is completely eliminated for VI admins and vSphere admins to be able to leverage Google Cloud using Google Cloud VMware Engine without any sort of disruption to their day-to-day operations. We're able to bring all of the standardized management tools and security controls. These are all compatible machine formats, and there's support for legacy operating systems, as vSphere has one of the broadest ecosystem of operating systems that they support. And then there is no like workload refactoring or revalidation effort, or very minimal revalidation efforts that are required, right? Because it's a like for like vSphere environment that is running in the cloud. And this solves for two things. One, it completely lowers the migration time and costs. In addition to that, it also reduces the whole revalidation portion. Longer term, essentially, customers also enjoy the benefits of lower costs of infrastructure. In fact, the TCO, when you compare it with on-premises, and I'll be covering that in a little bit more detail. But when you compare that with on-premises or with other cloud options, you would find that the TCO is lower just because of the way we've sort of configured our nodes, and also because of the fact that vSphere offers very high consolidation ratio. This is all completely dedicated cluster design, so it is really designed for high performance applications. You can do live migrations, which are non-disruptive, and you can retain your existing IPs. And essentially, you have the ability, because it's vSphere, to have that flexibility to take that architecture back on premises as well. Now, let's cover a little bit about the four things, right? How do you experience it? How do you connect and operate it? And how do you optimize it, right? And essentially, if you see over here, it's a one-stop shop with Google Cloud VMware Engine, because Google provides all of your transaction needs. It also provides the support for both the VMware environment as well as the cloud needs. There is dedicated east-west networking, 100 Gbps, and this is fully redundant, right? There is no oversubscription over here. The connectivity is leveraging deep integrations with the native GCP networking stack, while giving you the ability to leverage NSX, VMware NSX, with full NSX-T manager access. You have unified management, which means that all of the identity and access control, the billing, etc., is integrated with Google Cloud. You use familiar VMware third-party ecosystem tools as well. And then finally, a lot of customers also want to move to Google Cloud VMware Engine and leverage all of the native GCP services. And that is made possible because these are co-located. Now, when you think about it, right, I was talking about cloud integrated, cloud optimized ecosystem flexibility. I mean, when you drill in a little bit deeper over here, enterprises have spent significant time and effort to actually build their enterprise networking topologies, right? With the way we've architected the solution, enterprises are able to bring those complex network topology without the overhead or with minimal overhead, right? So, for example, things such as global regional connectivity or multi-VPC connectivity. Those are made simple with Google Cloud VMware Engine because we've natively integrated very heavily with the Google Cloud networking stack. In addition to that, customers also enjoy rich private access to Google Cloud services like BigQuery, etc., which they can use to modernize their applications. And Krishna will talk about that a little bit later in our talk. It's cloud optimized, as I was mentioning, which essentially means that you get the enterprise grade redundancy and reliability with Google Cloud. And we provide one of the highest private cloud configurations, so up to 64 hosts per private cloud, and these are really beefy hosts. They can support large scale architectures, and essentially the networking is completely without any oversubscription, as I was mentioning. And all of this you can actually get. You as a user can spin up an entire VMware dedicated private cloud in Google Cloud with Google Cloud VMware Engine in about 30 minutes on demand in any one of the 13 regions that we are available, right? What this essentially unlocks is, hey, I want an environment where I want to migrate rapidly to the cloud. I don't have to do any of the racking and stacking of the hardware, installing VMware. All of that is taken care of for you by Google. And then you can get all of this in under 30 minutes, ready to go, right? Further, it's highly available. We are one of the solutions that, one of the only solutions that provides 4 nines of availability in a single zone. And essentially, this allows you to create, highly available environments for your workload needs. As far as ecosystem flexibility goes, it allows you to support not only Google Cloud services, right? Access to Google Cloud services, but also VMware technologies. And in fact, if you go to the VMware website, you'll be able to see all of the validated solutions over there and third-party tools and ecosystem tools, right? With unique things like solution user access, as well as another thing that we provide is elevated vSphere privileges, which gives you the ability to customize your VMs based on the configurations that you have on premises, right? And be able to translate all of that to the cloud. I was talking about the TCO benefits. Essentially, the way we've configured our nodes have the highest storage to core and memory to core ratios. Couple that with vSphere's high consolidation ratios, and you're able to achieve a lower dollar per VM per hour compared to on-premises as well as to other options of VMware running in the cloud. And when you think about some of the other benefits, right? You don't have to manage the environment, right? Which essentially means that you can focus on your workloads. You don't have to do the installs. You don't have to do the upgrades, the patching, interoperability, none of that, right? All of that is taken care of by Google. And in situations where customers require more storage, and one of the things with Google Cloud VMware Engine is it's a hyper-converged offering, which essentially means you have compute, storage, and networking together with the software and the hardware together. If they want to have more storage options, you always can leverage GCP cloud storage. You can also use other third-party ecosystem tools such as NetApp for you to extend your storage elements without adding additional nodes. This is a single vendor model, which essentially means there's no other vendor involved. It's just Google, which allows us to deliver a higher security posture. And in addition to that, because of the way we sort of architected the solution, you get end-to-end security from the point of origin to destination, and within the destination as well. We support NSX-T microsegmentation. And we also support vSAN encryption, not only with your own customer managed encryption key system, but also with cloud KMS. Now I'll pause over here for a second and hand it over to my friend Krishna, who will lead us a little bit through what this all looks like. Krishna, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Sai. Hi, everyone. Now we heard Sai give a very good overview of the solution. Here we are going to go a bit deeper and understand how things work. To create a private cloud, which is equivalent to an SDDC that you are aware of in the VMware terminologies, it's just so simple, right? All it takes is 3 clicks. Sai, can you go back one slide? Another slide, one more. Yep, thank you. So all it takes is 3 clicks to create a private cloud, right? You name the cloud, you pick a region, you select the number of nodes you need, provide the networking subnet, and you create the private cloud. That's all it takes. And what you get is this, right? Your private cloud, your SDDC, runs on a dedicated hardware, right? This is sole tenant capability. This is not a multi-tenant capability. Once you have a sole tenant capability, what you get is you don't have the problem of a noisy neighbor, right? So the allocated network bandwidth is completely for your setup to use. That enables a lot of critical applications that you will see down the line, right? And once this private cloud is created, this uses all the Google Cloud's native capabilities, whether it is fully integrated with VPC networking, whether it is with billing, whether it is with ability to use cloud operations for unifying your logs. Everything gets integrated from the point after you create the private cloud. Next slide, sir. Here we give an example of how the noisy neighbor problem is avoided. Here we deployed a couple of workload VMs. They run stock OS with no optimizations. And if you see the latency that we show between the VMs is less than 50 microseconds, right? Which is what latency sensitive applications require. This is something no other service can offer. This we can offer because we provide you a sole tenant dedicated hardware with fully provisioned, fully allocated networking bandwidth just for these nodes. Can you go to the next slide, Sai? So when we talk about fully integrated with the native Google services, take the example of billing, right? Once the service is provisioned, you can come in and see what is the usage and how much you're being billed for, like any other Google service, right? Similarly, if you want to buy a committed usage discount, you can come into the cloud console and purchase it from there, right? There is no necessity to have go through a separate vendor here. Everything is integrated in the same cloud console like any other Google service. Whether you want to use identity management or the access control, whether you want to reach out to the support, everything is no different than any other Google native service. So this is a first-party service provided by Google, which is different from all other services available out there in the market. And you go to the next slide. So today, how many regions we have, right? This is an ever-changing map, right? At the time of this recording, we show you all these regions that are available here. I would advise you to go check our website on a quarterly basis because we keep rolling out newer regions and newer zones. There are a couple of points that I would like to highlight here. One thing is the these zones, right? There are Frankfurt and Sydney have 2 zones now, which gives you much higher availability than what is available already in terms of 4 nines per region. So we are going to make it extend it even further because Frankfurt and Sydney already has 2 zones, and we are going to roll out other regions with multiple zones in the near future. And we also have a roadmap where we are going to roll out more regions. I would advise you to check our roadmap page on the website quite often to see if the region of your choice is available. Can you go to the next slide? This is an important piece of information that we need to discuss here, Sai. When we talk about integrated Google Cloud networking, how do you access VMware Engine, right? One way people access Google Cloud is set up Cloud VPN, or they connect their existing on-prem data centers via interconnects and connect to the Google Cloud infrastructure. This is exactly the same way you can connect to your Cloud VMware Engine also. This is no different than what you do for any other Google Cloud service. That way, we want to reiterate the fact that this is not a bolt-on solution, but rather this is a fully integrated first-party solution that is running on Google Cloud. Let's say you are running an application that has components running on VMware Engine. At the same time, you have VMs and other parts of your workload runs on the native Google Cloud side. Now you want a communication to happen between these 2 applications. VPC comes into picture, right? You use virtual private cloud. You interconnect both these parts of the infrastructure. Your VMs running on native VMware Google Compute Engine that can talk to databases running in VMware Engine. So there is no difference between an application running inside VMware Engine in a private cloud and other parts of Google Cloud. All these applications can talk to each other, and all these services can talk to each other. And how is this possible, right? In Google Cloud, VPC is a global construct. Once you have a VPC set up, all the subnets that are built under that VPC can communicate with each other without the need for any router or VPN setup in between them. This is, again, a differentiator for Google Cloud. And VMware Engine completely leverages that fact and uses the fact to provide an ability. For example, if you have deployed private clouds in 2 different regions, you create a single VPC and allocate subnets to these 2 different private clouds. And now these 2 private clouds can communicate with each other over Google's backbone without any special configurations. That tells you that this is not a bolt-on solution, but rather this is a first-party solution that leverages all the capabilities of the underlying platform and gives you all the flexibility that you need, irrespective of whether your applications run on VMware Engine. A part of it may be rest of you want to talk to BigQuery, you want to leverage some other part of Google's cloud service. Everything is possible because this is a native service running on Google Cloud. Next slide. So recently, we achieved a bunch of key certifications that people have been asking for, right? And we are very happy to announce that we have achieved ISO 27001, 27000, and 27018 certifications. We have SOC 2 and SOC 3, and PCI DSS. What this gives is the security. We can guarantee security, availability, confidentiality of customer data, anything that is running on Google Cloud, right? With PCI DSS, you can run applications that process credit card data. So with these certifications, the platform, Google Cloud VMware Engine, and the underlying platform is certified to meet these requirements. Now it's up to the applications to take care of that side of the responsibility matrix to make sure that the entire stack meets the requirement. But the platform that we offer has all these capabilities, and we go through annual audit cycles to keep up with these certifications. Next slide. A key differentiator that we have here is the encryption, right? Data at rest. In Google Cloud, data at rest is always encrypted. Whether you write data on a persistent disk that is attached to a Google Compute Engine VM, or you are spinning up a private cloud in Google Cloud VMware Engine, the underlying storage is encrypted by default. The default encryption is managed via Cloud KMS. This comes at no additional cost. It is enabled by default. So there is no option of having an unencrypted vSAN in a VMware Engine private cloud. And this is provided by default. You don't have to do any management to encrypt it. But if you choose as a customer to use your own encryption keys, you can use an external third-party KMS. At that point, you have to switch over from the default KMS provided encryption capability to a third-party KMS server, which we support a bunch of external third-party KMS providers here, and you can use them to meet your requirements. As again, by default, vSAN is encrypted. There is no way a data sits unencrypted on vSAN on Google Cloud. Next slide. Another slide.
So,
Go ahead.
Krishna, I think thank you for that deep dive. Right, I think one of the key things that customers are also looking for is it's great that I have lifted and shifted without major re-architecture, without any modifications, my workloads that are running on premises on vSphere over to Google Cloud VMware Engine. But what do I do after that, right? Is there a path for me to use Google Cloud services, and how do I actually do that?
Exactly. That's a very good question, Sai. We will see it in the next slide, how that happens. So let's assume you have lifted and shifted your workloads from on-prem VMware to Google Cloud VMware Engine. The first thing that comes in everyone's mind is like, okay, what happens to my backup capability, right? Let's assume you are using one of your favorite partners' solution to perform the backup on-prem. You can continue to use the same partner solution in the cloud, and we have validated and verified many of our partner solutions on Cloud VMware Engine. So what does that mean is that you just don't lift and shift your workload. All associated toolings that you have can also come with it to the cloud. That is because we run a native platform, and we also run a very similar platform to on-prem, where we provide you a dedicated setup with all the redundancies built in. The differentiator comes here, right? When you're on-prem, maybe you bought a secondary storage capability, right? You have extra storage to which you're backing up into, right? But that can change once you're in the cloud, because you have the ability to use, let's say, Google Cloud Storage, GCS buckets. You can back data up into GCS buckets. And GCS buckets have its own capability, right? One, it has multi-regional capability, dual regional capability. It comes with encrypted at rest capability. So you don't necessarily need to buy a secondary storage hardware. Instead, you can use these existing cloud service capabilities to back up your data. And the fact you can able to do all this is because Google Cloud VMware Engine is integrated into the Google Cloud capabilities, and that's why using the VPC capability, you can reach all these services available on Google Cloud and make use of them to actually simplify your backup operations or any other partner solution capability by leveraging all these existing features. Another interesting, Google Cloud acquired Actifio in the recent past, and Actifio brings a lot of backup and disaster recovery capabilities to Google Cloud. If you want to run a DR, use VMware Engine as a DR site, right? There are two parts to it. Right? One, you should be able to incrementally back up your on-prem data to Google Cloud, and you should be able to spin up an instance out of it when you need it. Either you're doing a test or it is a failover scenario. If you have to keep a private cloud running in the cloud just to store the data that is being replicated from on-prem, that is going to be a very costly solution. If you're okay with an RTO in the order of few hours, then what is possible is using the zero footprint DR solution with Actifio is that you incrementally back up the data from on-prem to the cloud, store it in GCS buckets. But when you need to spin up failover, you can then spin up on demand a private cloud and recreate your entire deployment without having to have this standing all through the time, right? That way, you have the required data available in cheap storage in a highly, with a high availability, and the whole private cloud is spun up on demand. So this provides the flexibility that you need to do a failover for certain kinds of deployments. So
basically you basically don't need compute nodes that are standing over there, right?
Exactly. You don't need a private cloud standing all through just to store the data that is being replicated from on-prem.
Except when you're doing either a failover or whether you're doing DR testing, right, which many customers actually do on a regular basis.
Yes, Actifio can spin up the data, can pull the data from the Google Cloud storage buckets, and we can orchestrate the ability to create a private cloud based on the data that you have backed up and bring your whole environment up and running again.
And I think that's where the 30 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes provisioning of a private cloud in any region also comes in, right? Because we are able to instantiate that very rapidly compared to others.
Exactly. If you can spin up a private cloud in 30 minutes, compared to which much longer in other cloud hyperscalers, this saves a lot of time, especially in a DR scenario.
Right.
Though you don't have it running already, in 30 minutes you have a private cloud running, and then you can ingest the data and get your deployment set up.
Let's talk a little bit about, once you moved it, you have some of the common scenarios like backup and DR catered for. There are a lot of customers that are using Google Cloud, right? And how do you sort of integrate the monitoring, the operations, day two operations over here with cloud operations?
So essentially, like you said, right? People just don't use VMware Engine. We have seen people integrate with other parts of Google Cloud, right? And they have been ingesting logs and metrics from various services, and everything goes into this service in Google Cloud called Google Cloud Operations, right? It is like a centralized place where you can do logging and monitoring of all your services. You can forward your logs from VMware Engine to the same service, and you can watch and monitor all the metrics that you want to track. This is in addition to what you can do with VMware's native capabilities, right? VMware provides native tools that can perform similar tasks. You have an option to stick to VMware tools, or you can unify it with the other Google Cloud Service tools. So you have an option to go either way here. That's the capability that Google brings here, because we have brought all the capabilities to Google, all the VMware capabilities to Google Cloud. At the same time, we have brought all the Google Cloud capabilities to VMware also, right? This is like the best of both worlds you can get.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you've talked about some of the common infrastructure use cases. Can you share a little bit about some of the other services as well, and maybe a one or two more vignettes?
Yes, for example, let's say you want to use BigQuery, and you want to use that visualization tools available, right?
Mm-hmm.
Using the ELT capability, right? You can create a workflow wherein, without disturbing your on-prem capability, without disturbing your on-prem setup, or you can just make use of all the capabilities that you have in the cloud by doing ELT and ingesting the data into BigQuery. Once the data is in BigQuery, you can, from there on, you can use Looker, Tableau, any of your visualization capabilities available on Google Cloud to improve the way you do your analytics on data, right? Again, this can happen without disruption to your existing workflow and your data stores.
So without actually disrupting those applications, what you can do is you can enrich those applications by, piping the data over to BigQuery and having, doing analytics over there. And then you want to visualize something, you can do that on Looker and other visualization tools as well. So you don't necessarily need to re-architect. You're basically adding on and enriching more with Google Cloud Services.
Exactly. That's well said, Sai. Yeah. Same thing again, right? Anthos is another Google Cloud native service. You can use VMware Engine as your platform to run containers, because for certain applications, having a dedicated setup with all the networking capabilities may turn out to be the right environment to run your containers. So you can start re-architecting your applications and start leave them running on VMware Engine itself, and have your Anthos manage it with every other Kubernetes deployment you might have, right? So you don't need to necessarily migrate your applications out of VMware Engine, but you can continue to leverage VMware Engine for a good chunk of your applications even after you modernize.
Great. Now, I think that's really good to hear that we are able to use native Google Cloud services as well. I want to cover a little bit about some of the use cases that customers are seeing and utilizing Google Cloud VMware Engine for. And when you look at it, right, I think there are 4 archetypes of use cases. One is, how do you move workloads over, lift and shift, migration, whether that's a single application, set of applications, or entire data centers, right? So that's data center migration. And essentially, we have several customers that are doing that. And for example, Mitel, a global provider of unified communications as a service to about 70 million business users across 100 countries, right? They were able to migrate 1,000 VMware instances over to Google Cloud VMware Engine in less than 90 days. Not only that, they were also, because there's a managed service, and essentially they don't have to have that operational overhead. They were able to prioritize their IT staff to more strategic activities, and essentially improve their monthly productivity operational output by 4 times, right? Or if you think about in Carrefour, right, which is one of the biggest retailers, they had decided to modernize their IT infrastructure by moving to Google Cloud, and they were able to move their on-premises VMware environment to Google Cloud VMware Engine, and they were also able to leverage Google Cloud's data analytics services. They were able to reduce operating costs by 40%, right? And they were also able to reduce the energy consumption by 45%. When you look at, there's another customer, Lake, which is CRM software company. They were able to again reduce their total cost of ownership and essentially reduce the infrastructure cost by 60% compared to 2 years ago, after moving to Google Cloud VMware Engine. They migrated 80% of their business applications and 50% of their information environments in 3 months. Recently there was also another customer, which is Unitech, which is based in Mexico, and they were one of the post-secondary educational learning institutions. The CIO had decided it was time to modernize the IT infrastructure, and the most efficient way was to actually migrate the workloads over to Google Cloud and exit the data center. But they had mission-critical Solaris applications that were running on proprietary Spark systems, and there was no such hardware that existed in any cloud, right? And what they were able to do with Google Cloud VMware Engine is they had 8 Spark P5 2 server logical domains, each hosting several Solaris zones, right? And they were able to migrate these 8 Spark servers with about 22 zones over to Google Cloud VMware Engine in just 24 days. So that's it shows you the power of having like-to-like environment that is cloud optimized, that is cloud integrated, with the best sort of networking integrations that customers can enjoy with not only the NSX-T but also with Google Cloud own networking. It shows you the power of how easily you're able to migrate and how fast you're able to migrate, and the kind of reductions in operating costs that you can actually see. Second set of use cases around disaster recovery, and Krishna was talking about some of the use cases over there. But essentially, whether it is standing up a completely new, using Google Cloud VMware Engine to have a new DR strategy, or whether it is to protect your workloads that are running in Google Cloud VMware Engine to another region within Google Cloud VMware Engine. These use cases are satisfied by Google Cloud VMware Engine, right? And the ecosystem of tools that support it. When you think about DR itself, we also support SRM, which a number of on-premises customers, VMware SRM, which a lot of on-prem customers actually use. When you think about the third category of use cases, which has gained prominence in the scenario that we are living in right now, virtual desktop infrastructure. Now we are able to support both Horizon as well as Citrix, and essentially with Horizon and with the way we've architected the solution, we're able to support really large-scale architectures. In fact, a manufacturing company in Europe was able to get to move their entire VDI infrastructure for their company in under 5 hours, right? And they were able to migrate a 50 terabyte file store in a week. the way we support large-scale VDI deployments, you actually deploy, we recommend you deploy your management blocks, whether it's connection servers, unified access gateways, app volumes, etc. on GCP, and you use GCV or Google Cloud VMware Engine for your desktop pools. This allows you to enable large-scale deployments without the overhead that you would expect. And then finally, as we were alluding to earlier, customers want to be able to use Google Cloud services, and with rich access to native services like BigQuery and Anthos, cloud operations, etc. They are able to achieve this in an evolutionary fashion, where they decide to modernize specific parts of their application at their own pace. Now, having said this, Krishna, I'm very curious to have our users listen to how they can actually get started with Google Cloud VMware Engine. Would you be able to share a little bit about how they can get started?
Sure, Sai. Those are a great set of use cases and how our customers are leveraging Google Cloud VMware Engine currently, right? To get started, can you go to the next slide, Sai? So an easy way to get started is using a single node private cloud, right? A single node private cloud, as the name suggests, is just one node. You get one node to start your private cloud. This is for non-production use only. It will remain live for only 60 days and it will expire after that. But you have the option to expand it to 3 nodes within 60 days. But to start off with, you can start with a single node cluster. This has been one of the most demanded features, right? And this just brings down the cost of entry much lower than what it used to be from 3 nodes to 1 node. And that's a great place to start testing out Google Cloud VMware Engine. And essentially what you need to do is create a GCP project and request for a quota, or come through a sales contact, and we should be able to provide you a single node, and you can get started there and expand it from there on to 3 nodes or how many ever nodes you need to turn it into a production cluster. So another question that comes up frequently is, hey, I have made investments on VMware licensing on-prem. What can we do with it, right? GCP can offer a one-time GCP credits for the first 12 months of VMware Engine consumption. So this will help you offset some of the costs that you already incurred because of the investment you have made on the VMware licenses. This is a consumption-based credit. So the more you consume VMware Engine, the more credits you receive. So if this is something that is going to help you, please choose this option. Start off with a single node cluster, private cloud, test it out, and then ask for Catalyst program to help you offset some of the existing license costs. So that kind of brings us to the end of this presentation side. So essentially, you can reach out to a sales contact. They can do a free assessment. They can figure out what kind of applications and workloads you have on-prem. They can run a set of tools to collect all the data and take the next steps and see what it takes to migrate you to Google Cloud VMware Engine from your on-prem data centers.
Thank you. Thank you, Krishna. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Sai. Thanks a lot.